All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to an installment of Movement Lab. We're going to work with, so I've been working with some themes here in this series, and it's moving for the mind. And I realize I need to do one little thing here and then we'll be ready to go. I think I have a little less feedback when I record without Zoom. But anyway, let's go ahead and start. I did a class on clarity and now we're going to do one on joy. So we'll talk about using that as a theme here today and how to kind of bring ourselves into that space. So we're going to use some observation. We do a lot of that actually, calling attention to bringing our mind in um, more resonance with what's going on in the body. And this class will be no different for that. So I find that gratitude is a really nice way to bring in a little more contentment and joy. Can be great, have gratitude for the bodies that we have, the different parts. We can be grateful for the time we are taking right now and for time in general that you have with in your relationships or whatever it is that you enjoy doing. We can be grateful for our good fortune and just in general, but we can get more specific with that. And as we think about those things that um, we are blessed with, I guess is a good way to put it. However, you're lucky to have those things, however you'd like to plate it. And then I think the magnificence and awe of what the body can do makes me very grateful too. So the way that the body can, the way it's structured, the way that we have shoulder joints and knee joints and hip joints and how they work so beautifully together, the design, the microbiology of the body. I really like to think about that, how we're able to take in nutrients and the body's able to break them down and use them and get rid of things that we don't need. All of that is very awesome. It's very cool that the body can do that. So I'm very grateful for that. And the other part of the body thing that I would like to touch on is that we have this autonomic nervous system. We have this part of our nervous system that regulates us. Um, we can affect it, which is nice. We're learning, and that's part of this practice, learning to influence it. But also that there's the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, that the systems that do things all by themselves. So when we eat and when we there are all these things that happen without us having to think about breathing, or that the heart needs to beat, things like that. So the body is awesome. Um, and I'm very grateful for all of these things, whether you want to think about the body or you want to think about these gifts that are in your life. Those are really good ways to encourage, I think, more joy in your life. So I'm going to use this practice to observe, to follow joy, um, to maybe think about what brings spontaneity. And even in the practice, I may give some place for you to play, so to speak. What can you do or what kind of things might you do in the next few moments in the practice? So there might be a little bit of freedom in that and creating that levity. So enough of that. Let's go ahead and come to your feet if you aren't already there. We'll take all of that information, 2 minutes of information, and we'll let it kind of land down toward our feet and maybe then come up the body and noticing your body here. I always soften my knees a little bit. I have the tendency to be very straight in the knees, or kind of um, and not really thinking about how when I bend the knees, I feel my feet better. I'm bringing that energy upward. And so do a check-in, do an observation of how does the body feel as you come up into the hips, into the belly, into the shoulders. Maybe you're noticing your spine, and then all the way up to the head. And then let's take a few breaths. If you want to, you can take your hands to your rib cage and take a couple deeper breaths. And right away, I start to soften my face, my jaw. Breathe into, if you have your hands there, breathe into the side ribs a little bit. If you have the tendency to take all of your breath toward the front of your body, this encourages a little more of that 3D nature of our lungs. We have a front and sides and back of our lungs. And then letting your breath go back to normal. Good. And now observing the body again in your mountain pose. Body feel the same, different. All we've done is taken a little in a little bit of information, and we took in a little bit of breath. Let's take this into a little more movement. Inhaling here. Maybe we're thinking about those side ribs. Exhaling, take the arms out and up. Inhaling, take the arms back down. Exhaling, take the arms out and up. Let's take it forward this time. Forward fold, inhale. Get a different orientation of the body. Exhale, gorilla pose. Bring your hands to your knees. Have a contact here of the hands, the feet, and then the head reaching its way out. Just notice the length that you can create in the back of your neck. So vision usually will have to stay downward, and then really feel that contact of the feet and the hands at the knees, or if you're down here, the fingertips at the floor. As the fingertips come to the floor, I have a harder time keeping the back of my neck a little long, so I'm going to check in with that. Good. So taking a breath here, and then exhaling, taking the arms out and up, all the way up and overhead, bringing the arms back down, observing the body, maybe observing your emotions or the mental, um, what the mental messages are. And then let's come down to the floor. So go ahead and find your way, however that is, all the way down. And then bring the hands behind the head, interlacing the fingers, creating that hammock for the head, and then resting the head down on the floor. And reach the elbows. We've talked about the elbows before, not way out to the sides, not way up toward the head, in this just right position. And then when you're ready, exhale, come up. Let's hold here. I'm taking those shoulders as much as I can away from the mat. And then as you come down, notice that vertebra between the shoulder blades. With an exhale, we're going to come up again, maybe noticing again we can make that nice length in the back of the neck, and that length will go down in between the shoulder blades as well. So I'm going to get a double whammy here, more bang for the buck. Let's bring their knees over the hips this time. If you'd like to, take the hands behind the legs and the elbows out to the sides, and maybe using the arms to bring yourself up just a little bit more. You want to reach up with the head, so don't let the head come too close to the chest and also not back here. And then let go with the hands a little more. Let the belly really work here. If you'd like to extend the knees, extend the toes outward just a little bit. 3, 2, 1. And take the feet down. Maybe you take your hands back, slowly lower. Feel your spine and those pieces of the upper back come to the floor. Good. So we're articulating the upper back, those vertebrae. I'm going to do this one more time. Exhale, find your way up. maybe the knees coming over the hips. And in this, I like when I bring my knees over the hips, I really want to try to keep things nice and soft here at the hip crease. So see if that can happen for you. And then use the hands again to come up and then give your attention to your throat. See if you can relax any kind of movement that's really, it's not that we're not going to use these muscles, but it's not overly taxing. Use the belly. See if you can really use the belly. And particularly when you take those hands away, still using the belly for the most part. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Coming back down. And then relax. Bring the feet down. Let the collarbones rest outward. And the throat. Before I thought about it, I don't think there was anything. And then once I thought about it, I feel like we stayed up there really nicely. Good. So we're going to knit the ribs like we just did. The ribs knit when we want to take the hands overhead and when we want to take the upper body into this position. And we get that nice long neck. So let's bring the head down and let's bring the arms overhead just a little bit and have those ribs knitting downward. If you've done my classes before, you're probably, and Scott's, we've probably talked about that a lot. So use your power of observation here, not only to be the fly on the wall, watching your arms go overhead, but maybe be in your arms. Can you feel the arms or be in these abdominal muscles that are drawing the ribs in? Can you be present, very present with maybe that rib knitting as the arms go overhead? Take them as far as you want to go, and maybe even reaching upward with the arms, hovering there, and yet these front lower ribs aren't coming up because we're really drawing them down and in. Good. Take the arms up, lift the head, use the belly more than the throat. Grab onto the legs and let's push ourselves up. Maybe it's hard to get up over that ledge of the back of the pelvis, but maybe you can use a hand and find your way up. We're going to find our way back up to our feet. So take your time. You can even go through that squat position if you'd like, checking out how things feel. We'll work a little bit more with these things in a moment, but come to your gorilla pose. So when my fingers are down here, I get that nice contact again of the feet, the fingertips, but it is harder to feel this opening in my back. So back of the neck, I feel like I'm trying to look forward because either I'm totally relaxed. So let's bring ourselves up a little bit, whether your hands are at your shins or just above the knees. And let's reach out through the crown of the head to create this opening in the back of the neck. Back of the neck, and that translates to between the shoulder blades, getting nice and active there. Reaching, reaching. At the same time, we're still having those ribs knit down and in. So we're supporting that from the front body, lengthening. And if you're down here, lengthening. It's trickier the further I go down, the more those ribs are going to want to go forward. At least that's how I'm feeling that. Slowly coming upward now, we'll just kind of roll ourselves up to standing. Good. Come to your standing position and see how this is settling in for you. Softening the knees, observing, and cultivating those points of gratitude again. What were those things that you maybe thought of at the beginning of class? Grateful for this body at whatever age, its abilities, Grateful for my feet, my ankles. I'm grateful for the mind that is so active. That's good. We want a nice, alert, active mind. And we're going to keep working with the mind. So let's take a breath here again. Remember how we were taking it into the side ribs? Exhale. Inhale here. This time, exhale, arms overhead. We were just here on our back with our arms overhead, knitting the ribs. Let's continue that. One more breath here. Exhale, arms reach, ribs knit. Bring the arms back down. Inhale. Exhale, arms out and up. Inhale, arms down. Take the fingertips toward each other, straightening them out with a little bit of resistance. So you could probably easily take your arms out to the sides. Let's bring them back in toward each other. And now pretend you've got something that's stopping you on the outside of each of your hands. Maybe it's a really thick material, like a wet cement material. You're going to push your hands through that to open up and wake up some of the arm muscles, the muscles in the shoulders. Holding here, that's resistance is still there. I guess I could hold this without that resistance, and then my arms kind of flop. They don't really feel like I'm doing as much, but really reaching through the fingertips, turned on. Good. Bring the arms down. Inhale here. Exhale, arms overhead. Inhale, forward fold, all the way forward. Exhale your gorilla pose. We worked with this a few moments ago. Hands right below the knees, right above the knees. And we talked about keeping that length in the back of the neck and letting that reach start behind the heart, between the shoulder blades or a little bit lower, those lower part of the shoulder blades, letting that reach start way down there. Good. Inhale, forward fold. Exhale, arms out and up. Bringing the hands back down. Cultivating an item of gratitude, an item of awe. What is really awesome in your life? Maybe you have grandchildren or little little people in your life, and watching them grow and learn is very awesome. Maybe you have teenagers, maybe you have young adults in your life, watching them as they figure things out and have successes. So let's go ahead and take a wider stride here toward the front. Cultivating that joy through gratitude, through magnificence and awe. Let's do a couple of sumo pose here. Lowering the hips and feeling the feet, warming up the legs. Good. 5, 4. We're going to pause a little bit on the down. 3, and up. 2, and up. 1. Pause here. Let's hold it. Hold it right there. Notice where the weight is in your feet. Lengthen the back of the neck. Maybe taking that weight a little bit forward so the heels start to get light, but we're not going to lift them. We're just going to get really light in the heels. A lot of weight toward the toes, the balls of the feet, but push down to come up. Good. And bring the feet underneath you. Good. Stepping the feet apart for one-sided sumo, or we might call it side angle. So taking one foot, turning it out, back foot turns in, and my hips, not along, they don't need to be even with that long side of the mat. Maybe I feel like my belly button more points toward that diagonal, that corner of the mat over there. Let's go ahead and bend the front knee. Bend and straighten. Feeling the feet, feeling the length in the neck as you continue to have this regal posture. Go ahead and pause in that bent position, bent knee position, and then take your hand to your low belly. Watch your knee stay in line. It's got a nice align with those middle toes. Knee stays, belly might open a little bit more toward that long side of the mat. Back leg nice and strong. So extend out your knee back here. Good. Bring the hands to heart center to start. Maybe your heart can spin a little bit more toward the long side of the mat. It doesn't matter if it totally does or not. Let's bring the arms up. So we didn't do this one earlier, this cactus arms. So opening up like the goalposts at the end of a football field. And the same thing, I want to pretend I've got some very thick cement to push my pinkies down, kind of karate chop my hands down through. Good. Then palms upward. Go ahead and look out over that palm. And it doesn't matter if you're completely in line with the body here. It could be off at an angle. Bring the arms back in, push down to straighten that leg. And let's come back all the way around to go to the other side. Turning that other foot out, turning the back foot in, letting the hips, I'm not turning them completely toward that front leg, maybe toward the diagonal end of my mat. I'm going to bend and straighten a couple here. And during that, I'm paying attention to both my feet. Front foot pushes down, receives the weight. Back leg, same thing, receives the weight, lets the weight go. Back leg nice and straight. Coming to that bent position, pausing. Knee stays in line with the middle toes. Low belly might turn a little bit. Hands come to heart center. Heart center might turn some more. We have all that. We have a little more twist here in the rib cage. And then taking the fingertips toward each other, that hand movement we did earlier, extending out, again, making it a little bit difficult to extend those arms. You're adding your own resistance, looking out over the front fingers, looking back behind you. And if I weren't guiding you through the class, what might you do next? Might you take one hand up, the other hand down? Might you straighten your leg, take your arms overhead, and then walk the feet underneath you as you bring your arms back down. Yeah. So what might we do to play in the practice? If you were guiding your own movements and playing around, I know when I take classes now, I spontaneously explore things that maybe the teacher isn't doing. No one can see me anyway when I'm doing the class online, so you can go ahead and feel good about that. All right, so let's take our hands up overhead like we've been working so much with opening this rib cage. We've been working with knitting the ribs, and especially as we take the arms overhead. So let's add on to that. Inhale here, exhale, arms overhead. And then we're going to aim for really quality side bend here, where we notice our head is going, our shoulders So the spine, if you can see the spine bending here, it's not about how much we can take our hip out to the side because that ends up being more low back. See if you can keep your hips right where they are and to give a nice reach up and over a little bit, coming back to center. Maybe you want to let your shoulders come down for a moment. Exhale, lift the shoulders again, reach over, and notice if you're taking those hips out to the side to get more of this movement looking like a half moon. It's not, probably not so much really what we're wanting to look like. So you can get that movement in the upper part of the body. Coming back here, bring the arms down, relax, relax the face. Let's step to the top of your space, top of your mat, inhaling here. Exhaling, we'll take the arms out and up, ribs knit. Inhale, forward fold. Exhale, gorilla pose, hands at the knees or just below. And practice that extension again, where the chin almost tucks, just to give us that really nice length right at the base of the skull. And maybe we can sense that coming down the vertebra to the spot between the shoulder blades. Inhale, coming forward here, releasing all of that work. Exhale here too. Good. And then let's roll up. So articulating all parts of the spine here, belly pulling up, belly pulling in to support. And then as your head comes up and shoulders come up, finding the shoulders in that just right position and the head balanced on top of the body here. Stepping your feet apart. Right. So settling our mind into this awareness of the body, we keep giving cues to look at what can I pay attention to now? How can I be observant? Yes, but also really with that back foot or really with this front leg. And I'm going to give you a couple more opportunities for that. And when we are really settled into that, that's called embodiment. And we're looking for that again and again because it's one of the best ways we can um, work with anxiety and see anxiety go away when we are completely present, when we can find that connection. This time, let your hips go a little bit more toward that front leg, back leg nice and strong. And I'm going to tip the pelvis over, bring your hand to the knee. So now we're in this really nice projected position for the spine, nice length in the back of the neck. I'm going to keep my hand up high here, keep my hand here rather than my elbow to start. And I'll tell you why. We're going to work with this rib cage again, and we have a little more space to do that if we're a little higher. So let's take the belly and turn it like we did last time. The belly turns, the chest can turn, the knee stayed right there. Good. And then we can take that hand upward to start. We're going to try a couple different places for the hand. The lower hand can get nice and light here, or even come away from the knee, or perhaps you lean into it a little heavier, more heavily. And then let's take that arm, sweep it around, and come to our heart space turned a little bit more toward the floor and reaching overhead, just like we've been doing. Arms overhead, noticing the breath in the rib cage. If you'd like to, you could add your other arm, reaching both arms out. Relax the back of the neck best you can. Do some adjusting there. And then pressing down, let's come up. Turning the feet. Bringing the arms down. Calling to mind something you're grateful for. Something new, maybe the same thing. Something you find magnificent or awe-inspiring. And then let's come to the second side, letting the hips turn a little more toward that front leg. And in a moment, I'm going to bend the knee, bending your knee. And now I want you to think about moving, being right in your belly. So in your lowest belly here, right below the belly button, or maybe you're right in this hip crease. We're going to take the torso over the top of the thigh, moving from that space. Here I am, attention in this space, hip crease, belly moving forward. Bring your hand to the knee. Let your other hand come to, we could keep it on the belly here to start actually, turning the belly open, turning the heart space, letting the arm lift. A lot of people like this lift here. Sometimes we can let a little bit of the weight off the front leg or off the front hand. And then switching that arm orientation to come and reach overhead with the heart space a little more toward the floor, quite a bit more toward the floor. And then both hands could reach if we'd like. Checking in with the rib cage. Are we still knitting the ribs? The hands are overhead, arms are overhead. And then pressing down through the front foot. Staying with the body. Turning the feet back forward. Bringing the arms down. And walking the feet underneath you. Taking a few breaths in mountain pose. As deeply or shallow as the body wants to do. Stepping to the top of your space. Inhaling here. Exhaling, taking the arms out and up. Forward fold. Inhaling here. You might feel that 3D version of the rib cage, the back ribs, the side ribs. Exhale. Let that breath go. We're going to work our way to downward dog. So taking your hands now to the mat, you get a little more contact, walking the feet back, and pushing the hips back behind you. And then for those of us who have that capacity, maybe you've heard the instruction to take your heart down toward the mat. And why don't you do that? But just notice with your heart sinking down toward the mat, how that feels for the rib cage, the front ribs specifically, how it feels between the shoulder blades, and if you feel like you could hold it for a long time. And then bring those ribs in, just like we've talked about, knitting the ribs. And notice how that feels in that space in the middle of the back, between the shoulder blades. And just take a snapshot. We're going to move forward into plank. Maybe you're making adjustment with the feet. Definitely going to need to knit the ribs here, pulling the belly up there, but also in the low belly, and giving some nice length to the back of the neck. Knees come down. Let's lower down like a push-up. Extending through the toes. We get to have the top of the feet on the mat. It's really nice. The nose and chin toward the floor. And again, sometimes people's tendency is here to look forward. And if you look forward, the back of your neck is not long. It is curling up. So nose and chin toward the floor. Draw your shoulder blades toward each other on the back. And notice how your shoulders lift. And then reaching out through the crown of the head. See if you can do that without your chin coming forward. It's really tricky if you're just starting. to get this action of reaching out through the crown of the head just to lift the nose and chin an inch or two off the mat. The chest comes off the mat a little bit, and then taking the arms alongside the body, kind of alongside even with the seams of your pants. Length in the back of the neck. Depending on how high you come up, you might feel that coming from between the shoulder blades. And then letting the body come back down, bring the hands back down. You're going to keep some of that orientation, but really using the arms here, like your elbows are attracted to each other behind the body. Get the arms ready to help and push yourself up to your knees. And then let's walk the knees forward just a little bit so we can turn the toes under and come back to your downward dog. Downward dog, letting the head hang down. Taking a breath in here. And then we're going to take the head in much the same way that we were working just a moment ago, letting it reach out. So the head is reaching out as though it could come between your elbows. If you look at your elbows, you might feel that. And yet we're still going to be pushing back. So there's a lot to keep in mind here. Let's start with one thing at a time. Knit the ribs. Reach the head just a little bit. Just a little bit more active in that upper body. And then come back. Let the head hang. Ribs are still knit a little bit. Let's walk the feet forward. Gorilla pose. Forward fold. Good. Rolling upward. All the way up to standing. Coming back to the center of your mat. Good. Let's bring our hands into genie position. So notice which arm is underneath because we might switch that in a moment. Bring your feet fairly close to each other. They don't have to be touching. And then let's bend the knees and come back up. Bend the knees and come back up. Bending and extending and bending and extending. Go ahead and bend and pause here. And then let's shift our weight, lifting one heel and shift to lift the other heel and shift and shift, shift and shift, shift. And then feeling those sensations as we come to chair and pause here. Maybe you're feeling a little bit of that jitteriness, a little shaky, things getting warm, things feeling whatever those sensations are. Gratitude for those sensations. We can feel those push down through your feet. We have that information. And the alternative is to not have that information. So we can use that information for feedback. The brain knows we're exerting. We have that recognition. So gratitude for the sensations, even if it's sweat or heart rate is more rapid. Allowing the mind to quiet down. Can't always have that happen. You're going to be softening your eyes a little bit, softening your forehead as you feel the feet. Good. Top of your space. Inhale here. Exhaling, taking the arms out and up. Inhaling, forward fold. Rib cage gets to expand. Gorilla pose, we get to work with that extension. Long back of the neck. Coming from between the shoulder blades, stepping back to your downward dog. Playing around in your downward dog. I'm going to bring my feet a little bit closer together. I don't often play too much here, but there's a lot of things that people have played with. We take one foot up, and I'm still going to try to keep a little eye on my knitting the ribs thing. But I'm also just going to play, see how it feels. So I took one foot back. Now I might take the other foot up and rotate open, bending that knee, the one that's supporting me, taking the other foot up and opening, bending the knee that's up, bending the knee that's down. All sorts of things we can play with. Both knees bending with the feet down. And then let's come down to child's position. And let's walk the feet through to come to seated. And you're welcome to crisscross your legs, welcome to have your legs straight out. You're also welcome to sit in a chair. If sitting on the floor is uncomfortable for the hips, I could not sit too long like this, and sometimes sitting up on something helps. So I'm gonna grab my blanket. Yes, sitting up. That's nice. So crisscrossing the legs, legs out in front. And gratitude once more. Gratitude, maybe thinking of something new you're grateful for, something that brings joy to your life. When I'm recording this, it's spring. I really like to see the blossoms coming out. And that brings me a lot of joy to go driving around, to go walking around and seeing those blossoms. Let's take one hand to the side, the other hand across. In that action, you've already done a lot of twisting in this area. We've been working with the rib cage and the upper spine. So don't feel like you have to sweat it out here or grit your teeth or push really hard with your hand that's on your knee. Breathe. Relaxing the forehead best you can. If it's evening, maybe you're relaxing your eyes or even closing your eyes. The gaze is down. We'd like quiet. If you're at the beginning of a day or middle of the day where you need a little more energy, the eyes might be lifted, looking upward a little bit. One more breath. And then coming back to center. Let's try the other side. Noticing again, we've already done a lot to twist. My heart space is headed out toward this knee. And even if my leg was straight, I've already done a lot to twist. And looking back behind me a little bit. Down, center, up. It depends on how much, what kind of day, what time of day maybe that you are doing the practice. If you're trying to calm anxiety, I probably would keep my gaze down. Trying to increase focus, I might lift the gaze, come on back to center, and bring the legs out front. And crawl the legs back a little bit. So you have your knees bent a little bit here, and you're welcome to straighten them out if you'd like to once we come into the pose. Let's take our arms one last time overhead. Exhale, arms overhead, ribs knit, and then taking that whole of the torso forward. And then let's slowly round and let your head start that. So the head can start coming forward, the shoulders can start rounding, and the arms just follow suit there. And we find ourselves coming over the top of those legs. We could do this seated in a chair just as easily. Taking in a couple breaths here, noticing how full the breath can be. And then if you're one of those people that wants to explore what it's like if the legs are straighter or straight, you can see what that's like. Does the pose feel just as at ease for you? Is the breath just as easy? And then slowly coming upward. And then finding a way to relax. So coming all the way down onto your back is possible. If you have a comfortable seated position on a chair, you're welcome to stay on the chair. And perhaps closing the eyes, perhaps the gaze downward a few feet in front of you. Brought together several themes in our practice. The overall hope to bring more joy through gratitude, to bring more joy through observation, and to bring joy through embodiment. Our ability to be in the moment, ability to recognize the gifts in our lives. Noticing your body resting or seated, the contact points of the body with the floor. The gift of gravity that holds your body in place. Allow your body to rest into that gift, the gift of gravity. And then as you're ready, if you're on your back, maybe rolling to your side, spending a breath or two on your side. before you push up to seated. If you're seated, opening the eyes. And we've come to the end of the practice. Gratitude, appreciation, embodiment, joy. Thanks, everybody, for joining me. Please let me know if you enjoyed this practice. Maybe send me an email. You can go to info@pilatesonharrison.com and they'll get it to me. If you have my other contact information, go ahead and send it that way. Hope you have a really great rest of your day or evening, whatever time this practice has brought us together. Talk to you soon.